guys, welcome to Just Like Other Girls, a podcast where the two of us discuss things that matter to us, things that don't, and a lot of stuff in between.
I'm Shandy.
And I'm Alicia.
Today, because it's our first episode, we will talk a bit about ourselves and what makes a personality. As I'm sure all of us know, there are a bunch of tests online like the MBTI and the Enneagram, as well as beliefs in things like horoscopes that could make up a personality. I am a Scorpio and Alicia's a
Taurus.
We have the app Co-Star, right?
Yeah.
So do you know your moon and your rising signs?
Yep, let me check real quick. So I'm a Leo rising and Virgo moon.
Okay, let me explain for some people who don't know what moon and rising signs are. According to Co-Star, the moon rules our emotions and our moods, and it is the sign that reflects our personalities when we are alone.
Okay.
The rising sign is the mask that you present to people.
From what I know, from things I've heard from other people, that means I am stubborn, I present myself as confident, and I don't know much about Virgo. Give me a second.
Okay, but from what I know, for you, Moon Virgo, I think it means that you're analytical and a pacifying character. And for your rising Leo, you present yourself to be bright, good-natured, and magnetic. Do you agree?
I would not say that, but I think I know people who have said that about me. That I don't think I'm particularly magnetic, but I definitely see that I present myself as like I try to be happy around other people. I try to like lift people's spirits. I see that.
Yeah, actually, I can see that about you. And I think you're magnetic. I think whenever I talk to you, you draw my attention a lot. Like I have trouble keeping my head in conversations usually, but when I talk to you, it feels like I'm just not out of it. So that's great. For me, according to Co-Star, my moon is in Pisces. My rising sign is Aquarius, I think. Yes, it's Aquarius. And my Pisces moon means that my emotional self is empathetic, sensitive, gentle. Aquarius rising means that I come off as eccentric or pretentious sometimes. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't look up the nicer descriptive words.
Yeah.
I guess.
Oof.
I think I do come off as eccentric
Yeah.
or pretentious sometimes. Like I would say that my personality, I don't think I'm really special or like unique or any sense, but I do hear people telling me that I'm kind of weird. Yeah.
I think you do have like strong opinions, and I definitely get the empathetic part where I think definitely like, okay, I don't think anyone who's empathetic is gonna say, oh, I'm super empathetic.
Yeah, that's so weird for me to say
it's
that
really
just
weird
now.
to say. But I think you're definitely quite in touch with like your own and other people's emotions.
Horoscopes for me is just a thing where it's kind of like for fun for me, and to each their own. But for me, it's just something that I keep in mind, and I think it's always fun to like find out and figure out my personality traits through horoscopes and like MBTI and such things.
It's very nice for us to like look at ways for us to like put ourselves in boxes. So we're also going to discuss like the MBTI and the Enneagram later. But yeah, I think horoscope is probably one of the most widespread ways that people like try to find themselves or find things that they identify with. I have to ask though, do you believe in like certain zodiac signs getting along with other zodiac signs poorly or well?
I personally think I don't mesh well with Virgos. I think that's according to my experience, not from Co-Star or the internet. But I mesh well with Virgos to a certain extent. Like I think as long as we don't get too close. But I don't really look into it before I get to know someone or I become friends with them. What about you? What do you think?
It says I'm supposed to get along very well with Cancer, Virgo, Capricorn and Pisces, but I don't think I know a lot of Virgos. However, I will say that I have had friends that I'm very close with. They are Cancer, Capricorn and Pisces. In fact, I think there was a period in my life where all my very close friends were Pisces. And I think for me, I just kind of treat it as a coincidence. But I did notice that, like, I can get along with Capricorns as long as I don't get too close to them. Because the two Capricorns I'm thinking of, I likely have hurt them or they have hurt me at some point. And with Pisces, we are compatible to the point where we might enable each other. That's so weird that, like, you don't get along with Virgos, I'm a moon Virgo. I get along very well with Pisces and you're a moon Pisces.
No, but I think I do get along with Virgos very well. But like I said just now, to a certain extent, I think it'll get somewhat toxic. I'm just very sensitive to other people's feelings, and at the same time, Virgos are as well. To me and in my personal experiences, when two people who are very sensitive to each other's feelings become very close, they might be too considerate of each other sometimes, and it will lead to a breaking point, I guess.
As I look up, like, Taurus traits, it says I'm supposed to be dependable, hardworking, dedicated, and stubborn. I agree with maybe 2 of those, but I definitely get what you mean. But, like, I think I'm also very emotional, and I don't know if that relates to Taurus specifically, maybe more to Virgo. I guess I should have researched more about, like, the zodiac signs of the friends I have who are more calm, collected, more head than heart. But for the most part, I feel like, yeah, I get along better with people who are logical, even if I get, like, frustrated with them because they don't understand how I feel.
For me, I feel like my Scorpio sun is more realistic in some sense, and that's like the logical side of me, while my Pisces moon is really how I am when I'm alone. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I don't make friends based on zodiacs. I don't make friends based on horoscopes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we just find out along the way and see if we mesh well. And if we don't, we can always blame it on the horoscopes then. Yeah, I'll just blame it on the horoscopes if it turns out bad.
Like, the horoscopes come and play up in the aftermath, not in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, moving on to MBTI, I think where horoscopes are more, like, based off of things you can't control, I feel like the MBTI is definitely something people see as more personality driven, something that more closely relates to you. Would you say it's, like, the most popular personality test?
I think it is. It is somehow relevant, I guess.
We are both INFPs, right?
Yeah. I would say that INFPs, how I would describe us would be emotional.
Definitely emotional.
I don't really know the good traits.
INFPs are introverted, idealistic, creative, driven by high values. Would you say that's true?
I would say to a certain extent. I think morals is something that's very important to me.
For sure.
For idealistic, do you think we're idealistic?
We've had this discussion before, but I think we are both idealists who try to be realists so that we don't get disappointed.
We try extra hard to keep ourselves realistic.
Yeah.
But that kind of beats the purpose, you get what I mean?
I think my gut reaction is always to look on the bright side and to want... Okay, you know, maybe I was being phrased a little weirdly, but I want to look for good things and I want to hope for the best. But because my hopes are already up, I have to kind of like force them down myself so that in case it turns out poorly, I can be like, it's okay, I prepared for this, as opposed to if it turns out well, then I can be like, oh great, it turned out better than I expected.
This is a very good way of explaining from the side of an optimistic person. And while as a pessimist, it's like I'm already thinking of the worst scenario. I'm a pessimistic idealist. That's the best way.
I used to think I was a pessimist. In fact, I characterized myself as being a pessimist for the longest time, but I would never have called myself a realist. So funnily enough, I think the way I describe myself just now may sound more optimistic, but I always thought I was a pessimist, so maybe I'm more like a pessimistic idealist. It sounds so contradictory.
Yeah.
But I think it's like, I look at the bad, but I still hope for the good.
I look at the bad and I think of the bad and I experience the bad.
Yeah.
Which comes to another type of personality trait kind of thing, like optimist and pessimist.
Yeah.
they somehow come to play as well when we talk about MBTI and like other stuff, because MBTI only tells you personality traits. How does like optimism and pessimism come to play in such traits then, and how does it like change us as individuals, if you get what I mean?
I feel like optimism and pessimism are very general things. Like there are things that people always see as like, oh, black and white, glass half empty, glass half full, that kind of thing. Because like the Enneagram and MBTI are more structured, they are newer constructs and they attempt to like break things down into like bite-sized chunks that everyone can digest. Whereas these two are very much like opposite ends of a spectrum, where no matter what you score on these tests, you can also be any of these things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sense.
So let's break down like those individual traits, right?
Okay.
So I stands for introverted.
Yes.
You know how the MBTI test like shows you the percentage of what you are, like I to E?
Yes.
What's yours?
Almost half, but a bit more leaning towards introverted.
Okay. Mine was like 80 introverted, 20 extroverted. I don't have my results here now, but all of my results skew very heavily to one side. So you are a more balanced INFP, right?
I would say that.
I believe the results are something along the lines of like 80-20 introverted, and then 90-90-90 for intuitive feeling and perceiving. So I'm very, very much heavily on one side of the spectrum.
As much as I feel like I'm an introvert, I think it's just how we receive and give off energy to other people around us. I think that at the end of the day, I will just feel drained when I like socialize with a lot of people.
Actually, would you say you're more tolerant of everybody as a whole?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting, because I try to be, but sometimes when I get frustrated with other people, it's because they may skew more heavily towards the other end of the spectrum. Like definitely for the most part I can get along with most people, but I just feel like sometimes when there are people who tire me out a bit, or who I don't understand the thought process of, it makes sense to me when they tell me, oh, I'm like an ESTJ or an ESTP. I get that.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I think I don't exactly get along with extreme extroverts as well. Okay, should we talk about some of the people that are also INFPs?
This one's very interesting, because when we were doing research for this, we found that a lot of them go into media, which makes sense with the whole like we are more in tune with emotions, stuff like that. So obviously you might make the connection that you may be more likely to write about it or want to let out these emotions, right? So some of the people we came across were like William Shakespeare, Princess Diana, Kurt Cobain. These are all people who had very strong ideals. Two of them are artists. I think a lot of people remember Princess Diana as someone who was like highly empathetic, didn't want to follow the royal family's conventions just because it was tradition.
I think what's interesting is that all of them are public figures.
Yeah.
I'm bringing this up because I know a lot of people who asked me before wanting to join like courses such as media and communications or like mass comm.
Shandy's in mass comm and I'm in creative writing.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask me this before considering mass comm as an option, that whether they have to speak a lot, and because they are an introvert, I didn't expect this much of putting myself out there or to interact with people. And I guess it was a good thing that I only found out when I joined, because maybe that would have affected my choice. But one thing I always tell them is that it's really not that bad. These are some things you probably already have in mind before making the choice or even considering mass comm as a choice. And I don't think like being an introvert should be a limitation to what your career choice or dreams may be.
I think that's one of the major takeaways from today's episode, is that whatever you identify as within these parameters, like INFP, the Enneagram, whatever you want to do shouldn't be held back by any of this. We do have one more thing we would like to discuss today, and that is like this up and coming personality test that's becoming more well known now, the Enneagram. A comparison was made, which is if the MBTI shows someone's personality type, the Enneagram shows how you deal with things and how you see the world. So according to the Enneagram, I'm a 4-wing 5, which is an individualist who has some investigative traits. So that's read as this type will appear more reserved, intellectual, and introspective than other type 4s, and seek to understand the world deeply and strive to make an impact within it.
That's very similar to your MBTI.
And it resonates a lot with me also.
Yeah. Okay, it makes sense. Can you explain mine to me?
You said that you're a type 8, right? Yeah. So that's the challenger, but you are 8 wing 9. Confident, calm, and a bit more patient than other type 8s. Do you identify with that?
I guess I would say I'm more tolerant than patient. I feel like patience is you're truly a nice person that you're willing to like wait for people, but tolerance is more of I'm willing to tolerate this because it's you. But I guess it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I think the Enneagram is getting popular now because it doesn't show you any of your personality trait, just shows you how do you deal with things or like how you think, which I think also hits people very deeply. There are 9 types in the Enneagram, but there's a total of 27 like distinct types. So that's where the wing thing comes in. So like imagine a circle starting at 1 and ending at 9, a bit like a clock. And so if you're like a type 1, you would lean towards type 9 or type 2, stuff like that. That's how we found like our wings.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to read off mine, and I'm going to read off yours, and then tell me if you resonate with it.
Okay.
But type 4s have a distinct inner and outer personality, prominent artistic outlets, but can tend to be melancholic and can feel empty. I would say that resonates with me very deeply.
Okay.
I saw it and I was like, I feel seen and I don't like that. Okay. Type 8. Tell me if you resonate with this.
Okay, I'm scared.
Independent and self-sufficient, fierce and confident, very energetic, fiery passion, but can be stubborn and headstrong, and serious about control over your environment.
I agree.
Okay.
And I'm scared that I agree. I do think that I'm independent. Fierce, I know that I have an RBF. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Determined, yes. Okay, the stubborn and headstrong part and having control over my environment strikes a chord with me, definitely. I would say I don't really like it when other people try to dominate over me when I'm working, especially, or like try to touch my stuff when I'm working. But at the same time, it depends on my mood that day, I guess. It depends in a lot of circumstances, and it depends on who I'm interacting with. What's your traits again?
Distinct inner and outer personality, prominent artistic outlet. I think I'm definitely, like, me being type 4 and INFP, I'm very much like a stereotype of a person, I think. Like, seriously, if you were to just read these, you would assume I was like some kind of like tortured artist, or one of those people who like thinks no one gets them. And I definitely used to be one of those people. I don't think I am anymore, just because I think I'm a little bit more self-aware. At some point you need to step out of your own bubble and realize that like everyone else has their own issues. I think that's what I have to come to terms with.
Yeah, that's like the negative impression, I guess.
Yeah.
Positively, I will associate you with an artist, I guess.
Yeah, I think definitely like the issue, the Enneagram, not the issue, but I think why it's become more popular now is because the MBTI is something that's like, oh yeah, haha, this, like you send it to your friends and like, oh, this is totally you. But the Enneagram, I don't think anybody can determine what someone else is. It's just because it's more about your inner world, like your own coping mechanisms and stuff like that. What's funny also, I think it's just like, tell me if you agree with this, but horoscopes, some people could see it as like you are given your horoscope and then some parts of it resonate with you, whereas personality tests, because you are doing the test, your answers maybe are a more accurate reflection of who you already are.
Yes, I do agree with this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think that there is no personality test that could accurately describe every single individual.
No, absolutely not. I believe in this. I don't know if you do, but like, no one is their own person. Everyone is a reflection of the people around them.
I agree with this, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think any personality test. I agree with you. No personality test can tell you exactly, you are this, your favorite color is this, you are exactly this person, because no one is a mirror of anyone else.
Yeah.
You are just kind of an amalgamation of other people and things that you believe in.
And your personality results always changes. That's the thing. So how do you know if it's truly accurate or not?
I mean,
right?
We always change also, right? So
yeah. So does your circumstances. I always believe in your circumstances being that
factor.
Factor, yeah. That changes you as a person and affects your personality, etc.
I think that's something about the Enneagram also that the MBTI doesn't have, is that the MBTI is very black and white. This is who you are, and most people resonate with it. But the Enneagram, like I mentioned how 9 personality types change into 27, and that's because there are these things where like they say, oh, for example, if you're like a certain type, when you're under stress, you could slip into more traits of a different type. Or if you're in a period of growing, you could slip into traits of a different type. And I think that's very interesting that like it seems the Enneagram seems to portray a more of a always changing growth mindset, whereas every time you take the MBTI, it feels more like a fixed mindset.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I'll look more into the Enneagram. Then what do you think about how much stake we should place in such tests or like horoscopes, etc.?
I think for the most part, no one thinks they're all figured out, right? At least for the two of us, I don't think we have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Most youths don't, and I think that's why this is so popular on like the internet and stuff. Because to the current generation, when we are trying to figure ourselves out, we look to stuff like this. Like we look to things that we think mirror ourselves. We find media that we resonate with, and it's the same with this. So I think I probably place more stake in like the MBTI and Enneagram than I do my horoscope. But I think the horoscope is fun, and I would say if you believe in all of them, then that will also be I guess to you a pretty accurate representation of your personality.
I think I take all of them as a grain of salt. Like I just see it as a way to explain why I do what I do, why I did what I did, but that isn't necessarily the thing that drives me to act a certain way.
It's not an excuse.
Yes, and also not an excuse for a limitation on what I can do.
For sure.
And I definitely think there is some sort of a degree of unhealthiness if you place too much stakes. I know people who actually will not get into a relationship with someone that has a horoscope they feel that they cannot get along with. Big decisions like these, I mean it's considered a big decision to me, shouldn't really depend on a personality test or horoscope. I think I'm the type of person to also see how it goes. I just like to make sense of things, but not necessarily like believe in them.
I was definitely one of those kids that wanted to figure themselves out. When I was growing up, I thought there was a surefire way to figure out who I was. And that's why I think when I first took the MBTI when I was like 11 or 12, I was so completely blown away by it. I was like, yes, it's absolutely who I am. So I think because I started at such a high place, I still have like quite a soft spot in my heart for it. But also I think like placing a stake in this is also a personality trait.
Yes, I was about to say this. For me, I just think that it doesn't define who I am. I'll just see how it goes, I guess.
Like at the end of the day, a personality trait, a horoscope, it's just an umbrella that people exist under.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily like figuring myself out either.
I love figuring myself out. I think that's where we are different.
Yeah, that's where we are different also, even though we are both INFPs.
Do you have anything else, Shandy?
Nope.
Alright, if that's the case, I think we're done here for today. I think we've talked a lot about what I wanted to
Yes.
talk about today.
Yes. Our key takeaway is we are both INFPs. That's the only thing I sort of remember from today.
I don't think we learned anything new per se. I think we just confirmed some
Yeah.
things we were already thinking of.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting talking to you about this.
Okay. Well, good news is we have a few more episodes to film together. Thank you guys so much for watching, for listening to the two of us
Yeah.
ramble on about all of these things. We hope you enjoyed this.
You can look forward to the next one, I guess.
If
Or
all
don't.
goes well, the next episode will be out next week. So thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next time. Bye bye.